था, 11 तारीख से फिर से बुलडोजर चलने जा रहा है।
योगी के काम से बहुत मेरा पूरा परिवार बहुत संतुष्ट है।
और हमें चाहिए का, हमें सारी सुविधा तो इन्होंने दे रहा है, तो हमें चाहिए ऐसे ही सरकार।
पहले दिल्ली में इनकलाब हुआ, अब पंजाब में इनकलाब हुआ, अब ये इनकलाब पूरे देश के अंदर फैलेगा।
बहुत बहुत थोड़ा शुक्रिया। वाहिगुरू जी का खालसा, वाहिगुरू जी की फतेह।
इंडिपेंडेंट पीपल आर सपोर्टिंग अस। बाकी जो कोई सपोर्ट करता है उन सभी को हम सपोर्ट ले लेंगे।
Credit to the country's Prime Minister and for all that he has done for the state of Goa.
Good evening and welcome to our continuous coverage on this momentous day of elections where the BJP has created history, coming back to power in Uttar Pradesh and winning 4 out of the 5 states that went to the polls. I'm joined by my colleague Sanket Upadhyay, who's covered every inch of UP for more than a month now from Lucknow. Sanket.
That's right. Thank you very much, Nidhi. This has been an incredible journey for the Bharatiya Janata Party. To not only defend the throne but also better it, and that too when there was definitely palpable anger on the ground. What was the reason and how did the BJP manage?
Clearly,
also
Sanket.
the story in other states. It's not just Uttar Pradesh alone. This is the story which has repeated in Goa. It has repeated itself in Manipur, in Uttarakhand, of course in Punjab. That's an altogether different story which we'll talk about, Nidhi. But the BJP juggernaut, was it Modi alone? What has worked for the BJP? I think that will be the key question.
That and the repercussions that these results will have ahead of 2024, Sanket. We heard the Prime Minister in his address to BJP workers just saying a couple of hours ago that 2022 has sort of decided who's winning 2024, and the BJP therefore goes in very much as the front runner in that election. But repercussions for the opposition as well. We're going straight across to Dr. Abhishek Singhvi of the Congress Party, Member of Parliament. Dr. Singhvi, thank you for joining us. Obviously a deeply disappointing day for the Congress, and I think since 2014 we've spoken every time there is a Congress setback to hear the words that the party will introspect and, you know, it will go into the reasons why this happened. But what is the earth-shattering change you believe needs to happen now for the Congress to remain a relevant player in politics?
Well, Nidhi, first and foremost, you must give me some brownie points for being here, to be available as mincemeat making for you, because we've done very badly. I believe in being upfront and candid. I really, prior to the exit polls, had said that there is a very sad decline in Punjab prior to the exit polls, and I said that because of the 2 reasons I said in NDTV in the morning today. I won't repeat them. But what is the true shocker for me in today's election, genuinely, is Uttarakhand and Goa. I had still till 9:30 in the morning, in fact on your show, said that Goa and Uttarakhand should be in the Congress bag. Goa is the single largest. So I find that very, very disappointing. I think I will, of course, not use the word introspection, but 2 things I will say. One, 2024 cannot be facile, and I, of course, would congratulate Mr. Modi and his party for a spectacular 4-1. I would congratulate Mr. Aap and Kejriwal for another spectacular thing. But don't make the mistake that Vajpayee ji made in 2003. 3 major victories in assembly elections, followed by the 2004 result. So I don't think it's that easy, but I think we need to do one thing. We need to, of course, have our internal elections done and dusted by August, September. But more importantly, go down state-wise. The 2024 elections have to be fought for the parliamentary elections in each state. Find a pole position for each state and gather around that pole position, submerge your egos. And Mr. Modi, at the best of his times, has not exceeded 39 to 40% vote. If you gather around the pole position of each state for the parliamentary election, not the state elections, you are able to do a good job. But that requires a lot of planning starting yesterday. It requires a lot of submergence of egos, and it requires a concerted effort. But it's not so simple to say that you won these state elections, therefore 2024 is in the bag.
Dr. Singhvi, good evening. Sanket here. My question to you is, since we are talking a lot about 2024, an obvious question will be asked of the opposition and particularly the Congress party, whether it still considers itself in terms of winnability the fulcrum of the opposition with a defeat after defeat. Do you think that newer players like the Aam Aadmi Party, who in a matter of 8.5 years have managed 2 state assembly elections, have managed to win Delhi thrice, don't you think there will be more claimants for the central focal position for the opposition than the Congress?
Part of my previous answer covers your question, Sanket. Look, let me just elaborate. You go to a state, you have to decide that state level differences will remain. You will fight state elections, but for the 2024 anti-BJP space, you will get together. Point 1. Point 2, in each state, there is almost in 90% state a clearly identifiable pole player, the lead player. Be it the TMC in West Bengal, be it somebody else, maybe Mr. Patnaik in Odisha. You have to rally around him, keeping your state level differences with him intact. And you have to say that we will prevent vote division, come what may, in that state for the parliamentary seat. Well, if you do that, at least you make a genuine attempt to it. I don't think it's at all easy for the BJP to win the elections. But I understand and I accept it takes a lot of doing. You have to eliminate the static, you have to eliminate the divisiveness, you have to eliminate personal egos, you have to eliminate a huge amount of ambition. And for this formulation of mine, who will be the Prime Minister, who will be the fulcrum, should all be irrelevant. You are the fulcrum if you are the pole position in India Gate. She's the fulcrum if she's the pole position in another locality.
Dr. Singhvi, may I ask you the question that most Congress people don't want to honestly answer, which is that, is it time for the party to look beyond the Gandhi family? It's not working. Under Priyanka Gandhi's leadership in UP, you've actually had your worst performance. So is it time to just stand up and admit it's not working? We need to move on.
2 answers very quickly, Nidhi, pointedly to your pointed question. 1, we are having state elections in August, September, and I am confident it will be done on time. Let's assume you have the state elections. Now, you have complete genuine freedom, and it's not to be cynical, to stand in that election. Suppose in that election, in a free and fair nationwide election, intra-party, Mr. ABC or Miss ABC are elected. On what basis do you say that you and I on the conversation on a television channel, or a supposed voter who's a mysterious, mythical voter, should impose somebody else other than the result of their election? That's just not a democratic way of doing it. And you like it or not, that is going to be the outcome. Which way it goes, it is open for all. Secondly, even the worst enemies of Priyanka Gandhi and of the Congress would admit that in a situation which was never at all even optimistically beside rosy, she brought energy, direction and momentum and a certain content to the whole campaign. Now remember, a voter votes for you because he looks at you as a winner. There was no way in which the Uttar Pradesh voter was going to look at us on that point of view. So I don't think our expectation of seats was high. But let me tell you, she did a very good job in energizing. I wish she had started a little earlier, but she's done a remarkable job in energizing and giving a lot of, esprit de corps to the whole thing.
All right. Dr. Abhishek Singhvi, thank you very much for joining us. I think while you say that, in the Congress party, anyone is free to stand for elections, say against Rahul Gandhi, hypothetically, ask a lot of your colleagues privately and they say it's not as easy. It's not as easy. I have to move on, Dr. Singhvi. I just have to move on with Sanket, and I have other guests. Thank you so much for joining us. Just go across to Mr. Pawan Verma, who's now National Vice President of the Trinamool Congress. Mr. Verma, the implications of today's result, especially on the opposition's brand of politics, and you have Mamata Banerjee, who's clearly positioning herself as a leader of an opposition front. Now Arvind Kejriwal, you have KCR as well. Is this going to sort of complicate how the opposition is going to end up working together?
Thank you, Nidhi. The biggest lesson from these elections is that the opposition has to go back to the drawing board. The legitimate discontents against this government, both on its economic performance and what it is doing to the social fabric of India, are real. The problem is that there is not enough a coordinated, strong, cohesive, grassrooted, strategic and organized opposition. This election is a wake-up call 2 years before 2024. Now there are three options before the opposition, and I think they will unfold themselves out before you in the coming months. The first is the possibility that the Congress finally reinvents itself. I'm not optimistic about it. Attempts have been made, talks have been held, blueprints have been presented, but the Congress seems to believe, and I hope I'm proved wrong, that a band-aid will do when a surgical intervention is required. The second is that a strong regional party overcomes its regional limitations and takes over a space which is national. That is possible but difficult. The third option is that particularly, and I will take 30 seconds more, in the northwest of India, in the Hindi heartland, there is the emergence of a new party. Why do I say this? In the south and east, starting from Bihar, Bengal, Odisha, Telangana, Andhra, Tamil Nadu and Kerala, there are 220 seats where the BJP holds only 54. So 150 plus are held by parties opposed to the BJP. The BJP's bonanza lies in the north and west, in 250 seats where its principal opponent is the Congress party. And the BJP's strike rate against the Congress party is 96%. The Congress is unable or unwilling to take on the job of challenging the BJP. A new entity needs to be born in the northwest that can, from these 250 seats, win 100 plus. And then you will see at the macro level, and I do not underestimate the micro problems, you will see the emergence of what any democracy needs, which is a robust opposition.
Okay, Sanket?
But Ambassador Verma, I wanted to ask you one question. See, you have made this proposal in the past also on an earlier broadcast where you and I were talking. But the point is, we may plan anything, sit in a drawing room, take a drawing board, but if we don't execute it well, and especially when this is a race against time in the opposition space, then every effort is going to come to naught. How many previous attempts have been made with the Trinamool Congress and the Congress and other players to come together and come up with this formulation?
Sanket,
it's really the time. Time versus personal ambition.
Precisely why I am saying. This is precisely why I am saying that the results of these elections, in spite of the verifiable and, as you yourself put it, very strong reasons for an opposition to the current regime, the BJP has won. This is the time when the opposition must realize that either it reinvents itself in the three options that I have presented before you, or it's a walkover for the BJP. It's quite clear. If you don't have a party in the north and west of India, which is grassrooted, which is organized, and which can take on the BJP, then I can say to you that in spite of the citadels that are held by people opposed to the BJP in other parts of the country, you are not going to be able to defeat it, because this is the region where the BJP reaps its bonanza.
Right.
And arithmetical unity will not do. You need a qualitatively new opposition with a narrative, a face, and organization.
The question is whose face, right? At the end of the day, we have Mr. Shant Prakash Jadhav of the BJP from UP also joining us. Shant Prakash ji, सबसे पहले तो many congratulations to you and your party. It's been a phenomenal win, especially in UP. But Shant Prakash ji, आप ये बताइए कि जिस तरह से आज अरविंद केजरीवाल का इतनी बड़ी जीत हुई है पंजाब में, और गोवा में भी आपको 2 सीटें मिली हैं. अब एक तरफ ममता बनर्जी है, एक तरफ अरविंद केजरीवाल है, केसीआर है, शरद पवार हैं, इतने सारे ऑपोजिशन नेता हैं जो पोटेंशियल फेसेस हो सकते हैं. तो आप इसे कैसे देखते हैं, पर्टिकुलरली आपका राइज, और अभी गुजरात में चुनाव होने जा रहा है इस साल के अंत में, तो क्या आम आदमी पार्टी वहां भी एक चैलेंजर बन सकती है, क्योंकि वहां पे भी कांग्रेस कमजोर है?
धन्यवाद. आपके चैनल के माध्यम से देश के सभी कार्यकर्ता बंधुओं को, सभी साथियों को, भाजपा के कार्यकर्ताओं को, सबको हार्दिक बधाई, और समुचित उत्तर प्रदेश और सभी राज्यों को जिन्होंने हमें इतनी शानदार जीत दिलाई है, सबको हार्दिक बधाई. जो आपने कहा कि आम आदमी पार्टी जिस तरीके से आगे बढ़ रही है, इससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. मैंने सुबह भी डिबेट में कहा था कि एक सुशासन, सरकार का अगर सुशासन अगर चलना है तो उसके लिए एक मजबूत विपक्ष होना चाहिए, और विपक्ष अगर लोकतांत्रिक ढर्रे पे काम करे वो ज़्यादा बेहतर होता है. एक पारिवारिक पार्टियों के रूप में जो अभी तक विपक्ष के कुछ नुमाइंदगी होती रही हैं, उसके कारण आज ये स्थितियाँ पैदा हो रही हैं कि नया एक पार्टी जो है वो आगे बढ़ रही है. मैं समझता हूँ कि आम आदमी पार्टी अगर आगे बढ़ती है और अच्छे तरीके से विपक्ष की भूमिका निभाती है, देखो हम भी कई जगहों पर हम विपक्ष में हैं, मगर हमने हर जगह पर मतलब सरकार को समर्थन दिया है, वहां पे विद्रोह नहीं किया. विरोध करना ठीक बात है, विद्रोह करना गलत बात है. आम आदमी पार्टी भी विरोध करे, विद्रोह नहीं. जिस तरीके से अभी किसान आंदोलन के नाम पर जो एक अराजक माहौल हुआ और किसानों को महरूम कर दिया उस योजना से जो सरकार ने किसानों के लिए 10 करोड़ किसानों के लिए लाभ के लिए बनाई थी, इस प्रकार का विपक्ष जो है वो नुकसान करता है, समाज का नुकसान करता है, और उसको नकार दिया है. आज उत्तर प्रदेश के और सभी देश के जो 4 राज्यों के जो चुनाव है उसमें सबको नकार दिया. आपने देखा.
एक सेकंड, शांत प्रकाश जाटव जी, आप विरोध और विद्रोह का फर्क जरूर बता रहे हैं, लेकिन आपको भी ये महसूस हुआ कि ये कानून वापस लेना पड़ सकता है, क्योंकि राजनीतिक रूप से उसका नुकसान हो जाए. अगर आप इतने अडिग होते, आपको लगता है वो इतना सही है, तो आप कानून ना वापस लेते. बहरहाल हम इस पर इतनी चर्चा कर चुके हैं, अब दोबारा बहस करना शायद ठीक ना हो. अंशुल, अभिजीत, आई वांट टू कम टू यू नाउ. यू सी द पॉइंट इज, wherever any opposition party has shown the potential to take on the BJP, they have been successful. Bengal is a case in point. Aam Aadmi Party in Punjab and Aam Aadmi Party in Delhi is a case in point. Similarly, you have other examples as well. Do you feel that the Congress is fast losing its ability, or may have, according to some, lost it by now, to be that very strong opposition to the BJP?
I think, Sanket, you've conveniently forgotten Madhya Pradesh, you've forgotten Chhattisgarh, you've forgotten Rajasthan. We are in a coalition government in Jharkhand. We are in a coalition government in Maharashtra. We are at the moment a strong opposition. I mean, it's inconceivable to think of a strong opposition without the Congress party. I'm not saying that it has to be the fulcrum of the opposition party. I'm not undermining any opposition party at all. In fact, my huge congratulations, unreserved congratulations to the AAP and to the BJP for this kind of victory. it's a historic victory. But the Congress remains strong. We ran a very, very inspired campaign, a very energetic, full of verve, full of resolve in UP. And I must point out one thing about the UP campaign, which hasn't been spoken about enough, that we were able to galvanize our cadres. And because we were on the ground for the past 3 or 4 years, on the ground in UP, the benefit of that could have also gone to other opposition parties, because our organization, no, but this hasn't been...
Abhijit, come on. I mean, I know you're a party spokesperson and it's your job to defend the party, but you have to have you have to be honest about how this day has gone for you all.
No, hang on a minute. No, I concede, Didi.
It's the worst performance of the Congress ever.
Well, I conceded. I'm less than delighted.
So, I mean, what?
I may be smiling.
Your good campaign rubbed off on who? Exactly.
No, what I'm trying to
Party.
tell you, what I'm trying to tell you is that we ran a very inspired campaign. It was a campaign of women's empowerment. It was unprecedented to give 40% seats to women.
But it didn't work.
Well, it may not have worked, but it's a beginning. It was a gesture. It was an articulation of various things. Yet again, we did it in Punjab, where we had a program of social justice.
So long as you admit that this is a beginning which will reap dividends later, one can understand. But as of this moment, in an electoral contest, which is all about numbers, it did not work. Anyway, Sujata Pandey, I want to come to you now. And this is a question not about the party that you like or you support. This is a question about your challenger, the Samajwadi Party. Will you give it to the Samajwadi Party that while the BJP increased its vote share by 2% the Samajwadi Party increased its vote share by about 12%. 12. This is the best performance of the Samajwadi Party ever since its inception, since 1992. Which means that if Akhilesh Yadav's assessment was that there is palpable anger against the government, he may not be completely wrong. He has shown it with a 12% increase in the vote share. And isn't that a cause of worry?
No, Sanket, it's not a cause of worry, and the mandate shows us very, very clearly. Akhilesh Yadav, consolidation of votes of his core voter, did contribute to his increase of vote share about 10% or so, which is reflected here, the highest till now. But he forgot that he needs to look much beyond the prism of caste politics, which UP, or identity politics, which UP has been known for till now. I think times are changing where people are demanding accountability. People are demanding that the policies are not just a matter of putting it in paper, but it's also reach to the people who really needs it. That is the story of the Uttar Pradesh mandate, that it has breached all kind of caste combination, arithmetics, people, the leaders who claim to be representing a particular caste, whether it is Rajbar, whether it is Mauryas, whether it is Sanis, it is all, it is not just not work. Even RLD, which was so much talked about, it does not work. Why? We need to think, forget the politics that we talk about. We need to think that why it has not worked, because the electoral is changing, the landscapes of Indian politics are changing, people are looking much beyond
I don't think so.
the caste arithmetic.
I don't think so. I think that will be an unfair assessment. Their brand of politics, whichever way they tried, their brand of politics got them a 12% jump in their vote share. Your brand of politics got you a 2% jump in your vote share. It's just that the others did not perform at all. Now imagine a situation if the BSP would have, if the BSP, one moment, not giving any consolation prizes and not taking away from the grand victory of the BJP, but had the BSP performed and the Congress retained its vote share, you would have had a very competitive position.
Well, the BSP did not perform is not the responsibility of the BJP. If the Mayawati is in slumber and comes out only to conduct
Absolutely not. I am just saying that as an opponent, to write off the brand of politics of Akhilesh Yadav and say that it did not work may not be a correct assessment. He increased his vote share, and I think there's an important message in there.
Sanket, the Akhilesh Yadav's politics, Priyanka Gandhi's politics, Mayawati's politics is not being written off by BJP. BJP is doing what it is known for, development politics plus.
No, I agree. I'm just going, I'm just analyzing with a fine tooth comb.
Only through a very
the point is we've run out of time.
It's time to change and the people are
right, Sujata ji. To quote this very famous movie, Jo Jeeta Wahi Sikandar. It's simple logic. At the end of the day, you won and congratulations. But the point is, should one be writing off the opposition completely or a brand of politics that we saw in the opposition space by the Samajwadi?
Sanket, I think we all should
Thank you, Shyam Prakash Jatav, as well as Anshul Avijit and Sujata Pandey. Sadly, I've run out of time, but we'll have time tomorrow, day after, lots of time to discuss this. Thank you very much. Good night and goodbye.